Welcome, and thanks for joining us on this month's edition of Inversant Insights. Our topic today, it's a heavy one, is planning for college. Adult learners and higher ed experts reveal everything you need to know, and that is a big topic. I'm Heidi Hancock, CEO of Inversant, joining you from Boston. Now, as you're coming in today, just let us know where you're located. It's always interesting to see where people are logging in from. Today, I'm joined by a group of experts and adult learners. Both are going to share unique insights into the challenges faced by adult learners, everything from juggling family responsibilities to full-time employment and financial aid. So let's say hello to our guests. Bianca Jimenez is Digital Marketing Specialist at Inversant and Bunker Hill Community College student. Hey there, Bianca.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here today.
Maxwell Marangello is the mental health activist and student advocate at Bridgewater State University. Hey, Maxwell.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Mariella Fiscal is the Director of Student Affairs at Urban College of Boston. Welcome, Mariella.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And Carla Hernandez de Cour is the Senior Director of Enrollment and Management and External Affairs at the University of Houston, Victoria. Welcome, Carla. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are ready for a great topic today. So thank you all of us for joining us. Thank you on our call for joining us. So let's jump right in. So first question that I have for you guys. Adult learners make up a significant portion of college students today, but the challenges that they face are unique. Maxwell, how can they prepare and best set themselves up for success?
I think part of it is trying to make sure you find a college that's a good fit for you. I think there's a lot of different culture. Colleges all have different cultures, different rules. And I think part of it is, I originally when I went to community college, and then I went to go from a bachelor's, and I applied to one school, and I was ready to go there, but they wouldn't take all my credits. It's like, well, I want to go to a college that's going to be able to accommodate me and sort of support my needs. And I find that you really have to sort of do your homework and figure out what college is a good fit for you, as well as which college that meets all of your needs.
Was that a surprise for you when you found out that you had some credits that weren't going to transfer that they wouldn't accept? How did you handle that?
Yeah, so I did apply. I had another state school that I wanted to apply to, Bridgewater State, and they would accept all the credits that I had. And I said, well, I'm going to go there instead. And it ended up being a good decision for me, and they seem to really want to work with me to meet me where I was at.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, especially after you put all the work in and gathering up the credits to discover that they may not be applicable where you want to go can be a little bit of a heart stopper. Bianca, I know that you've been doing some different things about facing different challenges about being an adult learner. Tell us some of the things that you've done to set yourself up for success.
Well, there's a lot of different things. I definitely have to echo what was just said about making sure you pick the school that is best for you. It would be great to be able to go to like a UMass Amherst right away or wherever it is that you want to go. But as an adult learner, your options for financial aid, especially if you're working, are minimal. So you're going to have to pay, you will get student loans, but you won't really receive too much free money. And that can be difficult because on top of paying bills, living life, being an adult, you also have a brand new bill to accommodate. So I would always suggest creating a budget or some kind of cash flow statement ahead of time. That's super, super helpful. At least like exactly where your money is kind of going to and how you can make space to be able to pay for college, not primarily only on loans, on student loans.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite way that you found to make space as you were planning your own college return?
I mean, in practice, this is what I'm saying. As, I am a person that hates capitalism but loves capitalism. So there's certain things I can't get rid of. So for example, I like to get facials. And I'm like, man, I could probably cut these facials out and cut my student loans down significantly, but I'm not going to do that. So I started doing Instacart. I started doing things on the side, started to try to bring more revenue in so I can kind of fill those gaps. So all the money I would make from Instacart only goes to my educational purposes. I would try to do things like that. And I did minimize on some things, like maybe a little less Uber Eats or whatever it may be. But that's me, and that's like my situation that I'm in. But for all adult learners, that's not true. There's people that have families. There's people that have a lot more responsibilities than I have. So being able, I think it's really, really especially important to be able to look at your finances and kind of go through like it. I don't believe that anything's impossible. I will find a way, and everybody should find a way. But being able to do that research ahead of time and figure out where, all these different funding sources can come from is super, super important. Even just me as a single person alone, I do that. I think it's especially important if you have a family.
Yeah, I understand, and making sure you've got priorities, and I'm with you with the facial priority, Bianca. I think that's there's some things that you just can't do around with. Mariella, what are some of the things that you found particularly helpful in setting up for success as you're returning to school or getting started as an adult learner?
Absolutely. I think maximizing and utilizing your resources on campus, or if you're taking online courses, still being able to reach out to those departments that can help you. I think that, as Maxwell mentioned earlier, going back to campus, even if you're you're going back for the first time, or you're coming and enrolling for the first time or coming back, try to see it in two phases. You have to do your research. Again, as Maxwell said, I think you have to find the college that's a good fit for you. Once you find that college, really be able to learn about the resources and the support that colleges offer. Oftentimes, students don't know about these opportunities or resources, especially if they're first generation students. They don't know that there's a department to assist with accessibility. They don't know that there's a department to assist with financial aid. They don't know that there's coaching, tutoring. Here at the college, Urban College of Boston, I often meet with a lot of students who are, trying to balance work, school, children, or families, right? So being able to really set expectations and work with them to try to help them perhaps to do a little bit of time management, right? How to balance all those priorities, I think is important. But I think going back to my initial statement, I think asking and really trying to understand and learn about the support and the resources provided to students by the college for free. They're there for a reason. So I always encourage my students to really utilize those and to really maximize, their education at whatever school they're attending.
Thanks, Mariella. That's great advice. If you were a student coming back and you're thinking about the different institutions, what would be the first place that you would direct people to look for, to ask for this advice? So I'm sure the departments are different, or the different, they have different names at different universities. And where would you suggest that they look? What's the first place?
A lot of colleges, have a role similar to mine, whether it could be the Director of Student Affairs, Director of Student Services, but that I think is the core and the hub where you can go to learn about the multiple resources available at your college or on campus. I think, try to locate student support services, student services offices that can really guide you and direct you to the different departments across campus based on your need. So definitely reach out to those. Normally if you register for classes, you probably already met with an academic advisor, with an admissions counselor. So really ask those questions. Once I'm enrolled, who can I reach out to for help? And I think that could be a good starting point.
Great. So they're even available before you're enrolled. So you can come and talk and interview and figure out what services can help you through that transition. That's great advice. Thank you. And then Carla, what are your suggestions for getting set up for success as you're coming back or you're starting?
Well, three things. I will say the first thing is knowing that you're not alone. Actually, in fact, there's 36 million adult learners nationwide that have some college credits, but they just need to finish a bachelor's degree. So know that you're not alone. This is something that happens, and you coming back to college is a great thing. And there's a lot of different things that are there to support your decision. Second, look at the program that you're going for. And oftentimes, if your main goal is just to finish a bachelor's degree, to utilize all the college credits that you have completed and just apply them to something that will help you finish a bachelor's degree, keep in mind that there are a lot of degree completion type of programs that have a very flexible and open degree plan. I know at University of Houston, Victoria, we have the University Studies program, and it allows you to transfer up to 90 credits that can come from just about anything. And that allows you to just be able to finish your bachelor's degree as soon as possible, and then maybe consider going into a master's degree to really focus on that specialization. So consider that. Also consider that if you do have a lot of lower division credits missing or your basics, there are a lot of national testing programs that you can take advantage of, such as CLEB testing, dentist testing, where you can test out of the core requirements, which is typically your English, math, any humanities, language requirement that if you're bilingual fluently in another language like Spanish. I know I did it for my undergraduate. I took the Spanish CLEP examination and I earned 12 credits towards my bachelor's degree. So that is a huge savings right there that you can take advantage of. Also, some institutions do offer prior learning assessment credit, which means if you have a lot of work experience, maybe you are a director of marketing or have been a manager for many years, you could potentially earn credit for that. Or if you have certifications or licenses, some institutions may recognize those as college credits and allow you to waive some of the introductory courses. So that is something to look into that can also save you time and money.
Wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a great way to get started. If you have all of this life experience and you've got these different things, one, test out, woo, nothing like, extra free credits. And then for your life experience and your work experience, testing, and getting credit for that. What a wonderful way to start to get you even closer. How would people start looking at that, or where would you direct them to start looking at testing opportunities or what would qualify as credits they could transfer in?
So I will begin with the institution that you're looking into going, because not all institutions offer that, and some of them only offer limited options for that. Another thing is maybe looking into ACE. That is the national association, essentially, that provides that assistance for experience credit for the institutions. I know there are some of the online courses, and some institutions do provide credit for that as well, like Coursera, and there's other programs, I forget the names of them, but some institutions are recognizing those certificates or courses that you take there for free. So that is something else that you can consider for sure.
With 36 million people with partial, credits, that's a lot. That's a lot of people that would really could really do a lot of transferring in. So that's really, really helpful. Thank you. I also, I didn't mean to cut you off. It sounded like you're moving into point number, the another point. So let me,
yes, no problem. Yeah, so my last point was just finances. I know that's one of the main concerns, actually, nationwide. That is the number one concern for adult students to not return to college right away, how they're going to pay for school. Well, know that, the pandemic happened and it has created a lot of different challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. There are different scholarships and federal grants that are now available for students. So make sure to contact your financial aid office if you are already enrolled to ask about any CARES Act type of funds that you may qualify for. There are federal and state grants that provide funds specifically for students enrolled in college, regardless of age, regardless of the program, regardless of whether you're in a bachelor's or master's degree. So be sure to ask about that. Also, a lot of institutions are extending their institutional scholarships. So be sure to always ask for that, even if it is not your first year, even if you've been out of college for many years, even if your GPA is not 4.0. Many times the main requirement is just to have either a 2.5 GPA or 3.0 GPA to be enrolled in a certain amount of credits, and you could qualify for institutional scholarships. So certainly look into internal and also external scholarships. There's a lot of nonprofits that offer scholarships as well. So look into those. I know Haku offers scholarships for Spanish students, adult learners is a big one for them in helping them return to college. Recently, they awarded, I think, $10,000 to several students. I know here in Texas, we have the Houston Rodeo Scholarship. There's a lot of different scholarships offered by nonprofits, so certainly look into those.
Thank you. And Inversant happens to be one of them. So too, that's one of the things that we're delighted that we'll be releasing our next round of scholarships. We piloted 2 last year, and we're getting ready to go into round 2 this year. So yes, you never know. I mean, and they are everywhere. They're in your local area. They're And they can't be necessarily easy to find, but do definitely shop for them. That's an important thing. So thank you. So thinking about if you're considering coming back to school, and as an adult learner, Bianca, you hit on this a little bit earlier about all of the different kinds of responsibilities that come into you as an adult learner, and so much to different juggle. So as we're thinking about all the things that have to be juggled, Bianca, what are some of your tips for staying on track and being able to do the whole balancing act that this takes?
Well, I went back to school during a pandemic. So I did have the ability to be able to work from home, which was really helpful. Like being able to have that flexibility through my job was super, super, super helpful for me. I took full, like I went to school full time this semester. Going forward, I don't think I'm going to be able to go to school full time, and that's okay with me. And that was the second piece of advice I wanted to give: is take your time, make it manageable for you, not only for your budget, but for your mental health, because that is the key to your success. Being able to make sure that here you're able to juggle all of this. So if you can only take one class a semester, take one class a semester. Also, the CLEP testing, super clutch. It comes in so handy, and it is way less than spending whatever some odd dollars per semester. And I was able to CLEP Spanish and English. So that was super helpful. I think those are like the three pieces of advice I would give.
And you're right. You commented about coming in a pandemic. We all had different situations that had us juggling a whole lot of other stuff that we didn't necessarily juggle beforehand. And Carly, you had mentioned there's CARES Act, so there was additional money that's come up. So you never really know what kind of situation is bringing that together. So I'm going to just open up the floor. As you're thinking about juggling, what are some of the techniques that you have found as your experience as an adult learner, or what are some of the stories? What are some, inspirational examples that you have seen on some of the students that you have encountered on some, hacks on how do you actually do this juggling about going back as an adult?
If you like, I'm happy to go very quickly and share my personal story. I just finished my doctoral degree in December.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was a struggle. I was a full-time student and I worked full-time in a leadership role. So it was certainly a struggle. But some of the tips that I learned was, being flexible with yourself and making sure that you have a specific goal in mind. When I started my degree at the beginning of 2018, so I did it in 3 years, which is a 4-year program, because I had a goal in mind. I knew that I was going to sacrifice some time with my family. I have 2 small children. One is 7 and the other one is 14. I take care of my mother who lives with me as well. And I have to take care of my husband as well, right? So it was challenging, but I knew that this is something that I needed to do. That's something that I wanted to do in my career. But I was only really willing to sacrifice 3 years of my life. I knew that I was going to not spend as much time with them. I knew that I was going to have to give up my weekends and have to work on my homework overnight. And I was okay with that for 3 years. So I made it a goal and I set it a plan. I started by looking at my degree plan. What is it that I needed to complete? How many credits? How many classes? When were those classes offered? So make me just mapping out everything that I needed to do to complete this degree. And then I sat down and thought about how I can complete it. And I decided to do 3 classes per semester, 2 over the summer, and that would allow me to finish within the 3-year mark that I wanted to do. It is something that is not typically done, but it worked for me. And it allowed me to really just focus on what I needed to do to make sure that I meet that goal. But one of the things that did help me in meeting that goal was making sure that I had a schedule. So I knew that at night I was going to do my readings, homework. Every night I spent at least 1 hour just with homework or readings that I needed to do. On the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I had a certain time that I knew that I was going to spend only doing homework. So making sure that you have a schedule. And at the beginning, it is a little difficult to get on that schedule because there's so many other things going on. But once other people around you, work, family, friends, they understand that this is something that you're looking to accomplish, they start to respect those boundaries that you're going to have to put on your schedule. If you know that you have to start studying at 9 o'clock from 9 to 10, then you know that you have to make dinner and do everything else before that. So your family and everyone else starts to understand that this is your schedule for school. And they understand that this is a time commitment that is only for a period of time. It's not going to be forever. So my son used to take my daughter and say, hey, mom, mommy's studying. Come on, let me take you. Let me take care of you. Let me go play with you. Don't make a lot of noise. Mommy's doing a project or whatever it was. So they start to help you stick to that schedule that you're trying to do. So building that support system within your close family and friends and work peers, it does help a lot, but you have to build it from scratch and know exactly what you need and be intentional about it.
I love that. Build a roadmap, build a plan, break it down into steps, and then share that plan with your surrounding people and your support network so that they can help support you in that. That's a great tip.
I'm happy to add to that last comment as well. I think that right on point. I think creating a routine, it's so important, especially when you're trying to balance so many things. Here, I can give you an example. I do one-on-one coaching with a lot of our students who perhaps don't have the time to really sit down and plan their semester, right? We also run time management workshops at different times because we understand that majority of our population are working adults. Normally they work from 8 to 5. So we try to really cater to them by implementing and delivering workshops that are maybe at 6, 6:30, 7 o'clock, so they can actually attend and participate. But I think one of the most successful workshops that we run here is time management, right? How to balance all those different things we have going on in life. And one of the things that I tell my students is, when you start classes, the beginning of the semester, really create a plan for your semester. And I tell them, use what works for you, right? Because we all utilize different time management systems, whether it's a calendar that you put on your fridge or you have your alerts on your phone, but really try to set a plan for your semester and also be flexible. Things happen, right? Sometimes things are not going to go according to plan. So if things do happen that you were not expecting, it's okay. Just be flexible and don't be hard on yourself. That's one of the recommendations that I give to my students. Also, take care of yourself physically, emotionally. Make sure that if you're exercising, drinking a lot of water. Keeping your mind and your body healthy. I think it's a big thing when it comes to making sure that you're able to balance everything that we have going on in life.
It is a lot. So, and it is managing the additional stress, no matter if you're balancing existing, but you're also adding another load when you're coming back to school. So Maxwell, here you are. What are the things that you're hearing? What are those hacks that you're like, oh, that is the coolest thing? Or I wish I did that when I went.
So I think one of the things that, I've had to deal with, I went to college originally when I was, out of high school. And one of the things I had to deal with was anxiety. And originally I didn't succeed. I had to take some time off and until I can sort of get back and go to community college. And for me, it was just taking things slow and knowing how to balance sort of, because I feel like with me, like I would have an assignment and if I had a deadline, I would get anxious about being anxious and would snowball. And I didn't know how to deal with that at the time. And I find that as long as I kind of know when all my assignments are due, I can kind of figure out when, sort of plan out, okay, well, this is today, by this amount of time, I'll, just being able to gauge where my assignments are due, I've been able to kind of figure out when I need to get things done. But it's been a challenge, but I also want to make sure that I have time for just taking care of myself. And I think social connections, family is very important. And it's important. I think when you're in the middle of things, it can lose getting grounded. And I think it's important to sort of have those connections because those people can be there to help you when you're struggling.
It sounds like, again, coming back to the roadmap and having that plan, you can always just fall back on your plan so that you don't have to figure it out as things are coming and that that you'll be able to handle whatever is thrown in your way, like, a worldwide pandemic, because, it's
one time.
So thinking about all the things that we do have to juggle, that comes back to decision making, and decision making oftentimes takes a lot of energy and can, create that different anxieties. So one of the biggest decisions, especially as you're starting to come back, is which school, what kind of fit is it? Mariel, what do you recommend that students consider when picking the best or the right fit school?
Of course. I think we go back, Maxwell mentioned this, you need to make sure that it's a good fit. So for example, as working adults, right, are they going to have the courses that you need available at the times that you are available? I think that's a big one, especially for adult learners, right? They have families, perhaps they have their regular jobs during the day, and perhaps an evening weekend schedule may work better for them. But you also need to ask questions. Are there classes that I will need to take available during this times, right? That's one. I think also the financial component is very important. Try to find scholarships or grants. I know that sometimes there are grants that you can apply for regardless of the program that you're in, but also there's a lot of grants that are related or pertaining to a specific field or a specific program. So say you go into a psychology major, try to look, in addition to the regular aid that's out there, try to look for scholarships and grants related to your pertaining major. I think that's also important. And also the support services that your college utilizes, right? The class size of the average class institution. Do you work better with smaller groups? Are you going to thrive in a class that has over 50 students? I think that's also important to understand your learning style. Are you more of a person who learns better in person? Are you okay with taking online classes? I think those are things that we need to understand prior to committing ourselves to a college and really asking questions. We go back to my initial comment that I think it's important that even before you register, enrolled, or commit to a school, ask questions really that can influence your decision at the end of the day.
Thank you. Yeah, and I do remember too, once you make a decision, you can change your mind. And you can always just revisit what was, the priority when you thought that through and give it a test. So it's not, you're not getting married forever and ever once you make that decision. So, give yourself a little bit of slack on that. Carla, what are some of the things that you think are important for people to consider when picking the best fit or the right school for them?
I think asking questions is definitely at the top of my list. But additionally, I would like them to go a step further and think about what are some of the credits that you have completed already? And is there someone at that institution that will be willing to look at your credits and see how those credits apply? I know we do a lot of draft degree plans where we pretty much look at all the transcripts and add them or plug them into a degree plan to see how many credits will actually apply and how many more they'll be missing. Also, one thing to consider is the core requirements. Your lower division, your first 2 years of courses, the basics. Will they change, or will the requirement be different if you go to a different institution? In Texas, we have a lot of students that are coming from out-of-state institutions. They maybe have moved here because of work, and they have maybe 70, 80 credits from an institution that is from another state. So oftentimes what they find is that they don't have a lot of the core requirements that Texas requires. So they have to kind of start from scratch, or they may have to add a year or so to their degree plan. So one thing to consider is go back to the institution where you have the most credits from first. Nowadays, even if you live in another state, that may be more cost efficient and timely if you want to finish your degree faster, because a lot of institutions now are offering either online or hybrid classes where you can do sessions online, even if it's at a specific day or a specific time, but you can join from an online environment and see if you can just finish at that institution first. If that is something that you can do, then I would choose that option first, because if you go to the institution at another state, you may have to complete additional courses.
That's great. And that also just shortens your time. So look for the way that you can complete your stuff and be off to the next piece. That's great advice to really look at that time frame. And you've been through that 3 years. That's pretty special, I think. Maxwell, what are some of the things that you know, advise people to do when they're looking for that right place to go?
So I'm a strong believer in public higher education. I went to Mass Bay Community College to finish my associates, and I was funded entirely on Pell. I didn't have to pay a dime. I also, you know, I'm at Bridgewater now, but I think a lot of people get hung up on this idea of going to a selective school or a school that, you know, has really good graduation rates or retention rates. And that people don't realize there's a selection bias there. They're taking students who are already, who are, doing well academically already, but it's not clear whether they're actually teaching them or helping them. And research, I think from Dale and Kruger from the National Bureau of Economic Research has actually shown that Ivy League schools for some students don't actually do any better in terms of earnings. So I think that's kind of a myth that we've got to dispel, and that, public institutions can be just as good. They actually have smaller class sizes than many privates.
And that's a good point, and interesting about kind of the brand name and the attraction to the brand name, and what kind of a value does that actually have for you as you go through. Bianca, I know that you're a big advocate for making sure that you're assessing that kind of value. What are some of the things that you went through as you chose your institution going back this year?
I'm going to give a couple different examples because my background is in financial coaching. I may not have a college degree, but I like to know what's happening with money, especially because I didn't come from money. So it's really important for me to be able to navigate around those and be able to come back to my community and tell them how to navigate around those too. So the first thing that I thought about, and in an ideal world, I wish I could be like, this school seems like a good fit for me because of this and this reason. But I really have to think about the bottom line and the dollar. So I really like to go into this as a smart consumer. So the same way, if I'm buying a house, if I'm buying a car, if I'm looking at mortgage products, whatever the case may be, I need to do my research appropriately. And then I will be able to secondarily think about, does this school make me happy? Or is this a school that's a good fit for me? Because I know me, and I know that the stress of money is going to be a big stress, and I'm not setting myself up for success like that. Being able to know that I can pay my rent, my bills, and also not have to take out student loans semester after semester is the full amount of federal student loans semester after semester is very helpful for me, and can kind of help me navigate a little bit better and a little bit easier and improve my quality of life. So I think that is, and then I also agree with what, I know he said not to call him Max, but I'm gonna call him Max. But Max said about being really looking at the school that you're choosing and why you're choosing the school. Are you choosing the school because it has a designer name or a brand name, or do you just need to finish these core classes and you can have a way a reduced receipt of that if you go to a community college, and then maybe apply for a bridge program or whatever you need to do to kind of navigate around these challenges and barriers. A big fear for me, and because I know the statistics and because I've seen it with my own eyes, is a lot of people go back to school, particularly in communities of color, and they take out student loans and don't finish, and then have this accruing debt of student loans for a degree that they didn't finish. So it's really important to be really practical about okay, this school is I could take 2 courses here and it's only going to cost me this amount of money. I think I can handle that. So again, being able to find a school that that you'll be able to manage what your course load will be.
And if I can add to what you just said, you just kind of made me think of something. With the community colleges, you want to definitely keep them in mind if you're looking to save money, especially if you're still needing a lot of the basic courses. And they have the mini masters. Those are a great opportunity for you to move fast and finish a class that you just need to take and is not maybe very hard or time consuming, and finish that class in 5 or 8 weeks. And it will cost you maybe a couple of $100 to take that class. Also, during the pandemic, a lot of community colleges, at least here in Texas, are offering free tuition for students that are wanting to go. And there's a lot of donations that have been given away by the I forget the foundation name, but Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, she donated a lot of money to different institutions, and those institutions are coming back and providing free tuition to a lot of students from that region. So look into that as well. Community colleges can be a great opportunity for those that want to finish just their lower division credits.
Well, this has been a great segue because, financing, how do you finance college is top of mind. It is one of the top stressors, and Bianca, you hit on too. When you stop out, if you stop out with a load of debt and haven't finished, that adds additional anxiety as well. What are some other financial, places to start that you would advise people to think about, as they're starting to figure out what's that right financial plan for them and how can they gather that information, or what are some things that they should take into account?
Oh, that was to me. Okay.
It's to all of us.
Okay. So first of all, a blog just dropped for Inversant that gives all this wonderful advice about how to go back to school as an adult learner. And if you want to know who wrote it, it was me. So you can definitely take a look at that, because beyond just a shameless plug, there are some really, really great tips. And we hit on a lot of them here in this conversation. When I heard CLEP testing, when I heard all these different shortcuts and different ways that you can kind of propel yourself a little bit in being an adult learner and finishing that degree, we've hit a lot of them here. A lot of the research, I would look on College Board. College Board has also, I would like to echo ACE. That is an advocacy program for adult learners, and they have a ton of resources and different things that you can look at. Also, just Google scholarships and different kinds of scholarships. In our scholarship research, when we were looking up for our scholarship, for Inversant scholarship, I found a scholarship that would pay you if you let them know why you love cats. And it's such a strange topic, but why not? I'll write something that tells you why I love cats if you are going to send me $500 so I can go to school. Also, depending, kind of to echo on what somebody else had mentioned too, if you are in a particular type of program, looking up for fellowships, looking out for different grants for that program, especially if you're going for your master's where there is hardly any funding, federal funding that goes into that. A lot of that is loans. So, or are you a state employee? Is there a state program that you can look into? Just different things like that. I would check for while you're in that planning process ahead of time, so you can kind of check those out of your mind and then move on to the next thing you have to focus on.
Great, thank
If
you.
I can add to that as well, just also your state or your city or your community that you live in. Sometimes there's a lot of programs available, and state or city funding, scholarships or grants. I know we're here in Boston. The mayor's office introduced this amazing free tuition community college program about 2 years ago, where students who recently either graduated from high school, I know they're not returning students, but students who graduated from high school within the last 12 months, or those individuals who just finished their GED or HiSET can actually apply to this program. And basically, if they finish their associate's degree within 3 years, they can basically get it for free. In addition to that, they can also get a stipend to help with their materials, books, and so on. So look into those opportunities as well at the city level, at the community level, because there's a lot of help out there as well.
Great, yeah, especially at the graduate level, the stipends are very, very, very helpful. Not only just tuition remission, but those stipends would be great. So we've hit on look for scholarships. We've hit on test out and use community colleges and find alternate ways for getting credits. We talked a little bit about some of the different loans. Other things that, as an adult, if you're looking at school and you've got your household budget, we've got make a plan and make a budget. That's also another, important piece. But as an adult, the whole idea of coming back into school, you're not maybe the typical undergraduate age or a typical student age if you're going for a graduate degree. Sometimes things are not necessarily, they don't necessarily feel like that you're right. Are there certain things that you would direct adult learners to look for as far as financial planning or financial aid that would be specifically helpful for them?
Well, let me add very quickly, because I've been having this in mind since Bianca was talking. One thing to consider too is your employer. A lot of employers are offering tuition assistance, either through tuition benefits or even through scholarships. I know grocery stores typically do scholarships if you work for a grocery store. Even nationwide corporations like Walmart, Chipotle, Starbucks, they all offer some type of tuition benefit. And even Amazon, I know, is offering also too some tuition benefit, and that is definitely something you can look into. We do a lot of third-party agreements, so even when you talk to the institution, oftentimes the drawback is that you have to pay for it up front, and they reimburse you for it. Check with the institution's billing department, and oftentimes they may offer a third billing option where pretty much that if they give you something from your employer saying that they will pay for your tuition if you made a grade of C or better, or whichever requirement they have, they can put your tuition cost on hold until you pay that, until you pass the class. And then once you get reimbursed, the company typically pays the institution directly, or there may be something that can be done so you don't have to pay for the classes up front.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
That's wonderful cash flow management opportunity. So check with your employer. Maybe do that even first.
Yeah, it is great. And another thing too is think about what you want to do after, once you finish with your degree, because if you're thinking about going into the medical field, there is a lot of hospitals that do offer to pay a large portion of your student loans back as an incentive for you to be hired. And I know a lot of nurses offer that. Also, you can look into nonprofit organizations. If that is one of the things you want to do, you can maybe qualify for loan forgiveness, or if you're looking to qualify or to work in the public sector as a teacher or anything like that, you can also see if maybe you qualify for loan forgiveness.
Oh, great.
I also,
you look like you're ready.
Yeah, no, I had something here. So, as someone who has a disability, I know not everyone has gone through that, but if that's something that, you've gone through, it could be anything that affects your ability to work. For me, it's anxiety. I was able to go to a vocational agency here. It's Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. They're actually able to provide money to help train you and go to school. And don't be afraid to reach out to other resources, no matter, if you're going through a tough time. I think there's people have a lot of stigma around accepting SNAP benefits or what's formerly known as food stamps, but it can be a big help, and a lot of people are eligible and they don't realize it. And look at other resources out there in terms of this. I live in public housing. It's helping me get through it, so some people go through rough patches. It's okay to accept help and know what resources are out there, not just for education, but for life in general.
Well, education is not a separate part of your life. It is part of that overall systemic whole. And we talked about building up that support network as you're going through school. This is part of that. So take advantage of everything that's there. Thank you, Maxwell. That's a great reminder to not forget about what other ways that you can be creative and pull things together to make sure that your school is a success, your school career is a success. That's fantastic. So, thinking about kind of being successful as an adult, going back to that whole thing. So we carry this whole financial burden. We have to figure out things. There's a whole lot more problem solving that has to go in because we've got more responsibilities and that we're juggling things. But one of the things is the whole community aspect. Going to school does have a social aspect. It does have a sense of community. As an adult learner coming back into school, how do you plug in? How do you get started, or how do you actually make that part of your overall experience? And how would you look for kind of peer-to-peer or near-peer support as you're doing this? And I'm going to just open this up. So Bianca, if you're in school, and even though you're in a pandemic, which gives us a weird situation right now, because what kind of social interaction are we really having? But how are you navigating these things?
I am a product of my generation. So I really love being able to connect with people digitally and having that opportunity this year. So through message boards, through different group assignments, through all things like that, I really loved it. I'm a social person. This pandemic was tough. I would have loved to be in class, even though I did have the flexibility of being able to work from home. It's important for me to still stay connected. So being able to talk to people on message boards, different things like that. I joined like a group, like a club, and I was able to just kind of like talk about like things I enjoy, like systemic like enjoy talking about like how to dismantle like systemic racism, things like that. So like I really enjoyed talking to that, like being a part of that club, because I thought it was going to be weird at first being an adult and like coming in and to these social settings that you aren't usually used to being a grown up and going to work. Like these are kind of things that usually you think about like high school going into college age being able to do, but I think being able to do this all digitally was super helpful. And finding in the school providing different ways for us to be able to speak to each other was great. But I would read all your emails. Like they send you a lot of emails, but I would read all of them because they offer different clubs and different opportunities to be able to connect with people. Also, since there are so many adult learners, it's a great way to network. You don't know who works where. So when you meet somebody, you guys could probably be in the same industry or an industry where you have a partnership. So it's like a win all around.
Oh, wow. Networking, another way to network and to advance your career, you can do that while you're in school. That's a wonderful reminder. And I was starting to think about that with you mentioned 36 million people have partial credits. I know that we're working with numbers somewhere between 73 and 75% of the college-bound community are adult learners. And you mentioned this, you thought you're coming into an experience where you're coming in with a bunch of traditional age students. And is that the case these days? What are, Maxwell,
Yes.
what do you see? Yeah.
So it's different. I mean, when I went to Mass Bay, the population was slightly older. So I found it's community college, it's commuter school. So not everyone stuck around, but the people who did stick around were very involved in student government and some of the clubs that were on campus. And I got heavily involved in student government and made a big difference there and made a lot of close connections. Now that I'm at a four-year school, the population's a little younger. It's a little harder. I still am very involved on campus, but it's harder to feel that connection with people being a little bit older. Personally, and I am very involved in campus, but I've been sort of supplanting my social experiences with things like meetup.com just to get social experiences through that because there are more people my age there. And so finding other ways to sort of socialize. But I think that it is tricky when you have everyone who's younger than you on campus to sort of have that bond.
Yeah. Meetup, a great option. People do gather in different places and they'll call you in different places. Bianca says, read your email. Maxwell says, check your app. Carla, Mariella, what kind of things are you seeing as far as how do you plug in? How do you get that social aspect? How do you get started on that as an adult learner?
Yeah, go ahead, Carla.
I was just going to briefly add, what Max shared, that there's not a lot of people on campus at the commuter campuses. I work at a commuter campus in the Katy area. And it's true, a lot of students just come to class and they leave. They don't really stick around, right? So that's one of the challenges that we have. So we did a survey and asked them, what is it that you want to see on campus, right? And most of them do want to see evening events, workshops, weekend workshops, or networking events. So the interest is there. I think the institution just has to create more awareness around it. So one of the things that I will suggest students do is one, like a lot of you said already, get involved with a lot of student organizations. And if you don't find one that really aligns with what you like, then create one. This is a great opportunity for you to find a way to start leading or to build your leadership skills if that's something you want to do, and create a student organization. There are funds available for schools to provide to help you build a student organization. Another thing is getting involved with nonprofit organizations in your area. To me, that has been the greatest opportunity for me to grow my network. But just volunteer in a different nonprofit organizations and inviting some of your classmates to also join you, or national organizations. I did something with the National Association of Women MBAs a while back, and I created a tremendous network of professional women all over the United States. So just getting involved with different organizations can definitely help you.
Oh, that's great. And you're right. I mean, looking beyond just even your own specific campus for all the different kinds of networks that are education related, like your women MBA piece. What a great option and what a great observation. So Mariella, I know that you're chomping at the bit.
I just like to echo what Bianca and everyone here have said. I think that for us, I have full disclosure, I have not been to campus myself in about a year. I've joined UCB in August, so we haven't done anything on campus, any events. Everything has been done virtually. So what I tried to do is I tried to really build that community by, like Carla mentioned, creating workshops where students can actually come together and sort of voice whether their concerns or questions or just comments and feedback of what's happening, how are they feeling, and so on. So I think virtual workshops have been a big success for the college. Also, we've created, in order to maintain that communication, not only with students, but also staff and faculty, a bi-weekly newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks, of course, and where we actually, can talk about updates of the college, or groups that are happening within the community, or opportunities for employment, or, it's sort of a newsletter that has content of, from different perspectives and different areas that we believe it's important information for our students to keep in mind. I think going back to what Bianca said, it's important that they read their emails. It's important that they really stay connected and read the communication that is sent by the college, because 99% of the time, I think it's information that they will find to be very valuable, that will, expand their opportunities and also bring new, connections to their network.
Well, it's really interesting to hear from you, Mariella and Carla. You're talking about some of the things that the schools are doing. Carla, you mentioned that, well, we did a survey and we found out what people actually wanted. And Mariella, you're like, and Bianca's like, I read the emails and oh my God, they actually are helpful. And Mariella, we're sitting here, we're sending you this information, do take advantage of it. So there's really kind of an interesting combination. And this is leading right in. So here's the $10 million question that we have. At the end here is that I'm turning back to you from all of your perspectives. What would you ask us in the community? What do you say that education institutions can do? What can your community do? But what can we do to make it, to better support our adult learners, to make that a better experience, to increase the traction, to decrease stop out, to help that success move forward? What's that call to action that you would send us home with on this question? We can play a little Jeopardy music as we're thinking about it for a moment.
Right.
Yeah. This is a small thing, but I noticed at a lot of institutions, there's sort of a stigma around part-time students. And a lot of the adult learners have to be part-time, but there's not as much financial aid qualifications, that we won't get as much financial aid if you're part-time. It's kind of shunned. And so I think to make things easier for people who might not need to do things at the same pace, would make things easier for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, part-time, that's a great observation. And I know as we're looking at who is going to school part-time, because if it is an adult learner, that is a huge segment that's going on. So it's not even the minority really anymore, even though it depends on your school. But that's interesting. So there is a stigma around part-time that we need to address.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right.
And also, like, to add to that, I think the estimated family contribution that comes up on the FAFSA, when they complete the FAFSA, I think it will be good to revise the formula that comes up with that for adult learners, because oftentimes that stops them from being able to qualify for a lot of federal and state grants. I think oftentimes the adult students have a similar need as a freshman student to get those funds, actually more than anything, because they have to consider, having to pay for daycare or having to hire a nanny to help them while they're going to school. So how can they take those additional costs into consideration when they're doing the financial aid application? I think that will be very helpful.
Thank you. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We've locked in on Maxwell's beautiful face. Thank you, Carla, for that wonderful for that answer as we're talking through things. Other thoughts. So thank you. Other things that we can do, thinking about that last call to action to make this better for our entire community. We all benefit as everybody is moving forward and becoming successful in their education. That brings up our communities that we all live in. We're bringing the fruits of those education pursuits back to our communities and lifting them up. So how can we turn around and lift up our learners?
I think if I may add to what everyone said, I think really looking at diversity, equity, and access, right? Equality. And it goes beyond sometimes, race. It goes into other areas like adult parents, parenting, it goes into first generation, it goes into students with disabilities, it goes into the different needs that our students have, right? That's what makes it diverse. That's what makes it equal and equal access. That I think it's a pretty popular topic nowadays, but I think that we need to really expand our perspective of what that means, right? Like, how can we cater the different populations that come to our campuses? And I'm not just talking about race, as I mentioned earlier, but it's a much broader perspective that I think that each college, I'm part of this diversity and inclusion committee, and we talk about what are the things that we can do to really make our campuses more diverse or more inclusive outside just the race or ethnic groups, if you will. So I think that's something that requires a lot of work, and I think it's something new for a lot of colleges. Majority of the colleges, and sometimes we may have challenges on knowing how to navigate those new trends or nuances of diversity and equality.
Making people at home and making sure that we're inclusive, that's a great piece. That's really absolutely important as we're looking at who is adult learners. That's that addresses
on its own, right? So
it's like you can't do without it.
And I think too, communities can do more to be inclusive of the students that want to go back to college. I think having more flexibility with jobs to do that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of employers that are not as flexible anymore with allowing students to go back to school and have more of a flexible schedule or doing 410. So, whatever, having that flexibility can also help students in just being able to finish a degree. Typically, that is a big concern for them.
So industry can also work by being flexible and understanding and supporting people as they're going back through school. That's a great call to action that we can all take a look at. Bianca, as our on the ground.
I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say it because it's always going to come back to this for me. The capitalism, everything that we mentioned right now. No, but like on a bureaucratic level, there's a lot of student loan debt and there's a lot of student loan stuff that really needs to be resolved and needs to be accounted for all these different intersections of people, whether it's race, whether it's, ableism, whatever the case may be. All these intersections need to be evaluated, and we really need to take a look systemically how we're able to support adults and everybody. Because there's a reason sometimes that you have to go as an adult. Maybe when you graduated from high school, you had to get a job and you couldn't juggle both. You're 18. You know what I mean? So like depending what the scenario is, but like on a federal level, we need to start looking at that because the more we award in financial aid, the higher cost of colleges. Like it's crazy. So I mean, for once, when I say capitalism, I say this at every meeting. That's why I laugh about it. Like anytime everybody's like, what can we solve today? I'm like, capitalism. But like, I feel like it's really important for us to advocate and look at organizations that do advocate for it. But like on a small scale, like me, just living my life, I feel like having, a community that supports you, a job that supports you. I've been very, very fortunate in both. While I was going back to school, I had like a plethora of like advice and knowledge and like opportunities and resources, and being able to share that with other members of the community is really important. I mean, even if it's in a casual conversation, I'll be in an Uber sometimes and this will come up, or like I'll go to a party sometimes and this will come up. And I feel like when you work in nonprofit, that happens a lot. Like, you know what I mean? You see these things, you see these gaps, and you're able to kind of fill them in for people. So just kind of, being able to be a resource for, the people around you who are looking to go back to school, I think is really important.
Right. Thank you. And my call to action, this has been something that I've been confronted with, and I've started to turn it over in my mind. But as we're looking at, in Inversant, as we're working with our scholarship program, One of the questions that we started looking at as far as our recipients, we have a recipient who is accepting of upwards of $22,000 worth of debt per year as they're going through school. And so we're looking at a minimum of coming out with some $80,000 to $100,000 worth of debt. And I had the question was turned back to me, which was, it's not the question about whether or not you should accept that or not, or the value that you're putting into the school. The question that I would like to ask, and this is my challenge and my call to action, is why do we think that's okay? And I think, and so my call to action is let's re-examine why we think that amassing that kind of debt at that age, coming through at the very beginning, is okay, that we should even be talking about solutions for that. We shouldn't even be entering into that headspace. So let's change the conversation. Thank you, everybody here who joined us today, and those who joined us live, those who you who are joining us on the recording and catching up on a replay. As always on Inversant Insights, there's a lot to uncover, discuss, and possibly disrupt when it comes to higher education. So thank you again, our guests. If you haven't already, make sure that you connect with all of them. Bianca, share with us how we can find you.
Can I drop my LinkedIn on these comments? I'm trying to check.
I think we can add them. We can add them on the other side so that they will be published. But why don't you just tell them to find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at LinkedIn. It's under Bianca L. Perez. Also, check out my blog on the Inversant website. And then if you really have a pressing question about how you can learn more about FastBall or anything like that, definitely hit me up on Inversant and my Inversant email, and I'll help you out.
Great, thank you. Maxwell, where's the best location to find you?
So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, it's really easy. Just in your URL bar, just type in maxwell.education. It'll come right up, and you can connect with me there.
Great, you've got your own tiny URL that you've created. That's awesome. Mariella, how can we best find you online?
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, Mariella Fiscal. You can find me there, but also you can go to our website, urbancollege.edu, go to the student services area, and my information will come up there. You can also follow us on any of our social media, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us as Urban College of Boston as well.
Great, thank you. And Carla, what's the best way to reach out to you?
I'm also on LinkedIn, Carla Hernandez Decor, or just / KH Decor, or you can email me at decork, like kilo, at uhv.edu.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm Heidi Hancock, and I can be found at Inversant. Until next month, keep up that good fight for more inclusive and equitable access to higher education. And join us at inversant.org to learn more about the people that we serve and how you can get involved. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.